What's up, folks? This is Justin from Books, Bricks, and Boards. About a year ago, I talked about a little game called Everyday Heroes. Now, in my previous video, I talked about the 5 things that I thought that Everyday Heroes did better than 5th edition, that being the game that it's based on. Well, after a year with the system, I think it does way more than 5 things better. So let's get into this game and take a deep dive into what makes Everyday Heroes tick. Without any further ado, let's get over the table. Disclaimer. It seems that Evil Genius Games has been pretty busy over the last year and is not without their share of controversy. That said, this channel is about talking games, not controversy, so my opinion today is related specifically to the game and the product line it has produced. If you're looking for an opinion on the business practices of Evil Genius, there are plenty of places that have that subject covered, and you can come up with your own opinion if that is your main concern. As for me, I'm looking at the style, mechanics, and inspiration of this game, and from that perspective, this game is great. In a world where the biggest RPG is ran by a company that continues to step on PR rakes repeatedly, one game decided to take that game to a place it had never journeyed. A 1980s movie theater. Grab your popcorn and let's talk about Everyday Heroes. Summary. Everyday Heroes is a game based upon the 5th edition of the most popular RPG in the world. And with that foundation, they created a robust kit with which to play out your favorite 80s and 90s action movies with either very thinly veiled stand-ins or, in many cases, actually licensed IP products for very popular franchises. As of right now, Everyday Heroes has had cinematic adventures based upon Escape from New York, Pacific Rim, Rambo, Kong, Skull Island, Highlander, Universal Soldier, Total Recall, and The Crow. Within those pages are rules to expand your game to include specific classes, backgrounds, professions, equipment, and talents specific to the worlds of the subject IP. They also include a competently, if a little predictable, adventure set in those worlds. But even without the cinematic adventures, you could easily recreate the scenes from most of your favorite flicks with the examples provided in the core rules alone. But does it feel right? Or is it just D&D 5e warmed over? Everyday Heroes successfully takes the best parts of 5th edition and then innovates to improve upon the very strong foundation. While there is a handy appendix in the back of the core rulebook which discusses the major changes from 5th edition to Everyday Heroes, the most prominent are the changes to armor, defense values, feats, and wealth, as well as the class archetype structure. So let's talk about those here in a little more detail. Armor. In Everyday Heroes, armor does not impact your ability to avoid being hit as it would in most D20 games. It doesn't even provide damage reduction as it would in the majority of the alternatives. In Everyday Heroes, you don't even care about your armor at all until you would be dropped to 0 hit points. Then you care about it a whole lot because armor will allow you to make an armor save. The DC for this armor save is based upon the amount of damage of the attack that would have dropped you to 0, and if you are successful, you get to prevent all of that damage and stay on your feet. If you failed, well,
if he dies, he dies.
Okay, maybe not that dramatic, but you will be making some of those 5e style death saves. Along the same lines as armor, shields work a little bit differently as well, providing cover, which in Everyday Heroes is a static defense value which replaces your own defense value based upon the level of cover that you have. Defense. Speaking of defense values, you don't have armor class in Everyday Heroes, as that wouldn't make much sense because armor doesn't affect getting hit. Defense is a bit different than AC in another way as well, being that it isn't automatically bumped by your dexterity modifier. Defense is based upon an attribute modifier determined by your archetype choice, as well as a level-dependent modifier, also tied to the archetype that you choose. This allows for smart heroes to cleverly position themselves outside of danger, while wise heroes might rely upon their senses to clue them into the best way to avoid an attack, and an agile hero could just be quick enough to make sure they get out of the way in time. Feats. At first glance, these may seem to be just 5e feats, but they do have a pretty significant innovation. Rather than having a pool of feats that are presumably all worth one slot, with some being obviously stronger than others, Everyday Heroes breaks the feats into minor and major options, with the choice of taking one major feat or 2 minor feats each time the occasion arises. Minor feats have another subcategory being basic. Basic feats are minor feats that can be taken multiple times, providing things like attribute bonuses, expertise in a skill you already have, proficiency in a skill you don't, proficiency in equipment that you don't know, increasing your wealth level, or gaining saving throw proficiencies. This alone gives nearly unlimited options for useful feats, regardless of your build or class. Beyond the basic feats, the other minor and major feats run the gamut of your imagination, providing you the ability to recreate the "it's all in the reflexes" scene from Big Trouble in Little China, or being able to master your favorite weapon, and everything in between. The list is several pages long in its summary form, so trust me, there's a lot of variety here. Beyond the aforementioned feats, the game also has multi-class feats, which allow players to gain specific features from other archetypes and classes, giving you the opportunity to really build exactly the hero you see on the silver screen. Wealth. This is another feature that seems like a minor change, but it fits the genre depicted here quite well. I don't recall watching Lethal Weapon or Beverly Hills Cop and saying, man, I wish there was some more accounting in these movies. Well, you don't want that in the games that reflect those types of stories either, so it's gone. In Everyday Heroes, players have a wealth level and items that have a cost associated with that wealth level. If you want it, and it's lower than your wealth level or equal to it, sure, you own it. That isn't to say you have it on your person at all times, but if you walk around with a katana or drive a Porsche, as long as your wealth is high enough, you don't need to worry about pushing the coppers around on your sheet. You just have it. Archetype and class structure. In Everyday Heroes, each character chooses an archetype that is tied to a specific attribute and representative of heroes that rely upon said attribute. The different archetypes include Strong Hero, Tough Hero, Agile Hero, Smart Hero, Wise Hero, and Charming Hero. One for each of the standard array of attributes we are all familiar with, being Strength, Constitution, Dexterity, Intelligence, Wisdom, and Charisma. As mentioned earlier, the archetypes will determine your formula for defense, as well as a couple of archetypal talents related to the role of these characters, such as Smart Heroes having Genius points and plans, Charming Heroes having Tricks and Influence dice, Wise Heroes having Focus, Tough Heroes having Damage resistance, Agile Heroes gaining additional speed and maneuverability, and Strong Heroes gaining abilities that allow them to better inflict damage. After choosing an archetype, players choose a class associated with the archetype that they picked, with each having at least 3 in the core rulebook, with Smart and Charming Heroes being able to pick from 4 apiece. These classes include Brawler, Heavy Gunner, MMA Fighter, Martial Artist, Scoundrel, Sharpshooter, Bodyguard, Commando, Scrapper, Engineer, Hacker, Mastermind, Scientist, Hunter, Master, Sleuth, Duelist, Icon, Leader, and Manipulator. And these are just the ones from the core book. Whenever you add in the cinematic adventures or the vault, which I will get to later, you can really faithfully recreate any action hero you want to, with a little bit of work and occasionally some creativity. Each class gives you a variety of class talents, special abilities, and some skills that will help you better embody the type of hero depicted on the screen. The sheer volume of options is pretty impressive, and together they give you a really good insight into how the designers envision you combining these different elements to make specific examples from popular films. The rest. Besides all these great changes to the 5e core game I have already mentioned, Everyday Heroes does a great job of focusing on what is good and expanding that as well. The equipment list in the core book gives you all the weapons, vehicles, and miscellaneous items you would want to fill out your games. The game gives a much more playable chase mechanic than the default one found in the 5th edition core, making me actually want to roll some dice instead of just hand-waving the whole thing. Literally pages of different random events to cover all manner of chases from foot to car and open to densely populated scenes. The plans used by Smart Heroes really remind me of the mechanic used in Blades in the Dark to retroactively depict the planning your characters would have done without bogging the game down by discussing contingencies and variables for hours. Very well done. But maybe my favorite part of the entire book is the bestiary, which covers a massive 87 pages. There are the expected ones like the zombies, werewolves, vampires, robots, crooks, and ninjas, as well as the very welcome but not expected clear clones of IP-related characters, with obvious Predator, Alien, and Friday the 13th nods here, as well as some welcome odds and ends like the Kingpin. You also get all your standard animals, cops, soldiers, kickboxers, dinosaurs, and more. Honestly, if Evil Genius just did a bestiary book, it would probably be a smash hit based upon the rogues gallery here. That said, this is again just the core book. The cinematic adventures include specific stats for the characters in their world as well, including specific name ones that everyone has always wondered about. Ever wondered how Connor McLeod would fare against John Rambo? Well, wonder no more, because they're covered by the cinematic adventures in Everyday Heroes. Advantages. This game will be immediately familiar to anyone that has played 5e for any amount of time, and because it focuses on only the first 10 levels, it will stay fun and fast throughout. When you add in the available IP-related adventures, you have some additional bait to pull in those gamer-adjacent types that might just need a little bit more incentive of a familiar story or world. Add to all of that the incredibly flexible and simple character creation tools, and this game has created a fertile ground for fantastic one-shot or ongoing games based around any of the covered IP, your favorite movie, or really any idea that you've had bouncing around in your head without the game to support it. But wait, there's more. The Vault. I've said quite a bit about the different cinematic adventures, and I have a few of them. While they are mostly very good, if you're going to play this game long term, I don't think that the cinematic adventures are where you're going to be focusing your efforts. It seems that you're going to be spending your time creating unique experiences or converting a different IP to Everyday Heroes format. If that is your goal, then you don't need the official IP stamp of approval. You need the tools, the mechanics, and the allies and enemies to save you the work of creating it all from scratch. That is what the Vault does brilliantly. This gorgeous hardback collects the rules and enemies from the full line of Season 1 cinematic adventures, as well as a nice collection of appropriately themed enemies, while filing off the IP serial numbers to give them a little more flexibility to fit into whatever world you're building for them. In total, you get 25 new classes as well as an extra set of rules to create your own classes. It also adds the very cool rules for immortals, cyborgs, mutants, and synthetics. Throw in a bunch of additional backgrounds and professions, including a new profession tree called the Career Path, and you have a pretty robust addition to the already meaty options from the core book. That really would be enough, but they didn't stop there either, providing rules for zero-level play, great for you DCC fans, rules for playing as kids, tons of new conditional rules specific to situations, and more. The additions of mechs, kaiju, ritual magic, and sci-fi tech all make significant appearances in the Vault. Then, just when you don't think they could possibly give you anything else, you get another 62 pages of appropriate NPCs and enemies to throw into your games. While I didn't find them as interesting as some of the more blatant IP-based enemies in the original book, there are still some very useful options here. They have all the generic NPCs you need to cover your era-spanning Highlander game, or the giant stompy monsters to fight your giant stompy robots in your Pacific Rim game. There's a lot to like here, and for $35 on Amazon, this book is a no-brainer to add to your game if you like Everyday Heroes. The screen. If you're the type of GM that likes a screen, Everyday Heroes has a very good one, covering all of the corner case rules you would want and providing maximum volume of hunt and search charts for its 4-panel display. This is well worth a look. Cinematic Adventures. If you're still here, then you are obviously interested in the game, and at that point, you just need to decide which IP are the ones that you really want the full fidelity experience for, and which are the ones you can live with just the rules from the Vault. I will say this about the cinematic adventures. I think that the rules and named NPC stats are by far the most valuable part of the package. The adventures range from competent to derivative, but none are really stand out in and of themselves. For my money, the best is the Rambo-based book, as it provides the most background about the different eras in the movies, as well as a good variety of options that fit within the framework set up in that movie. Another standout was Highlander, which did have some interesting rules for immortals, but largely this is covered ably by the Vault and pretty much eliminates the need for the cinematic adventure, unless you were wanting some of the key stats for NPCs from the first movie. Character creation. I don't know about you, but for me, the best way to really dive into a game is to build a character. It allows me to meaningfully interact with the rules in a way that requires thought and planning. It also gives me a chance to see just how good the system is going to be at putting on the table the heroes I've watched on the screen. So with that said, let's build Jack Burton. Step 1. Concept. Well, that's pretty easy. Loudmouth truck driver that relies upon a little luck and great reflexes to see him through the day. Step 2. Background. For my background, I will choose On the Run.
Have you paid your dues, Jack? Yes, sir, the check is in the mail.
With this, I will get a +1 to my dexterity, perception proficiency, and a reroll on my initiative, as well as my iconic sunglasses. Step 3. Professions. For profession, obviously I'm going to choose transportation.
I never drive faster than I can see. Besides that, it's on the reflexes.
I get another +1 to dexterity as well as a +1 to 3 other attributes. I gain proficiencies in mechanics and vehicle. My wealth level is 2, and I get the experienced driver rule, allowing me to ignore 1 level of several types of vehicle damage. Step 4. Ability scores. I will just use the standard set in this example and take the 15, 14, 13, 12, 10, 8. I will put a 14 in strength, a 13 in constitution, 15 in dexterity, 10 in intelligence, 8 in wisdom, and 12 in charisma. With my prior bonuses, that will make these a 15 in strength, a 14 in constitution, a 17 in dexterity, a 10 in intelligence, an 8 in wisdom, and a 13 in charisma, giving me the following modifiers. Step 5. Archetype and class. For Jack's archetype, I'm choosing Agile Hero. And for class, I'm choosing Scoundrel.
Well, then would you ever consider just jumping right into
Sure, but never with a person in your condition.
These choices will give me a starting hit point value of 8 plus my Constitution modifier, and a defense value of 10 plus my Constitution modifier plus 1 at first level anyway, and a bonus of +2 in any skills or weapons I'm proficient with. Additionally, as an Agile hero, I will get advantage on initiative rolls. For my Scoundrel class, I gain some skills, and I'm going to take Deception,
How do you do, ma'am? Henry Swanson's my name.
Intimidation,
Son of a bitch must pay.
and Streetwise. I get to gain expertise with one of those skills, and I'm going to go with Deception here. I also get a Vital Strike bonus to damage against any enemy I have advantage against, or an enemy within 5 foot of an ally. Step 6. Finishing touches. This starts to look a whole lot like finishing out a standard character in any other similar RPG, so I'm going to skip that and show you a little glimpse into Jack's future. While you might be thinking, sure, this is a pretty standard archetypal truck driver, wrong side of the tracks kind of guy, but where this really starts to reflect the Jack we know and love is when we hit 2nd level and collect a couple of minor feats. At 2nd level, we get an additional archetype ability, Quickness, but the real gem is in this particular feat, Awesome Reflexes.
Goodbye, Mr. Burton.
So it does what you expect, allowing a roll to catch and throw back anything thrown at you. The absolutely iconic Jack Burton moment right here on this page. Brilliant. For the second feat, I think I would take Snatch Victory, which allows a 1 to become a 20 once per day, because that is just so in tune with the dumb luck that Jack displays throughout the film. Wrap up. So there it is, a rundown of what Everyday Heroes RPG is, what the different products cover, and the types of games that you can play with it. If you're looking for something in the same bloodline as 5th edition, but with a refreshingly intelligent revision combined with a wonderful eye for pop culture, this game might just be for you. That's my thoughts on Everyday Heroes, but I'd love to hear yours. Have you played the game? Did you even hear about the game prior to this video? Tell me about it in the comments section. And if you want to continue the conversation a little further, come join us at the Books, Bricks, and Boards University Discord channel, link in the description. We have a growing community of like-minded gamers discussing our favorite systems, adventures, and the occasional bit of gaming history. If you've enjoyed the content, please be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe. And until next time, this has been Justin from Books, Bricks, and Boards. Good gaming, and God bless.